I'm Jack Kennedy, and we're here to bring you the latest in MMA.
Hey everybody, my name's Hunter Boss, and what the boss says goes.
What is up everyone, my name is Keelan McNamara, and you already know what time it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island Podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Keelan McNamara and Hunter Boss. UFC 272 is today, Saturday. How exciting is this? Masvidal, Covington. A little bit of a thing real quick before we get going, a little bit of a plug. We will be doing an Instagram live today around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune into that. We're going to be getting hyped up for the fights as usual. It's going to be on our personal Instagrams, but you know where to find those because we put them everywhere anyways. It's gonna be good. We'll be talking about the fights like we are on this podcast. Basically, let's get started with the news as usual. And this is a bit of a weird thing that just kind of started, potentially start forming. Kamaru Usman said he wants to fight Canelo in 2022. Not only did he say he will fight him, he said he will beat him. Hunter, what do you think about this?
I think it's complete bullshit. No fucking way. Come on. It's Canelo Alvarez, the number one pound for pound boxer, going against a wrestler. I mean, let's put it like that. Honestly, yeah. I'm gonna take it there. I'm gonna take it there. Yeah. He's a wrestler, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
He wrestled in college. The reason why the Conor McGregor versus Mayweather fight was at least different from this one is that Conor McGregor has proved himself as a very, very good striker. And I'm not saying that Kamaru Usman isn't a good striker. It's just everyone knows Conor for his striking.
Yeah.
Most people know Kamaru Usman for his wrestling. And lately, in the last 2 years, I guess, he started knocking people out, which kudos to him. But to step from a street Judas to the number one pound for pound fighter on the planet is kind of a leap. I'm going to give Kamaru Usman a 5% chance that he can win this fight, and a 95% chance that Canelo wipes the floor with him. We haven't seen Kamaru Usman knocked out in any ring or octagon before. This is the time we see it. Yeah. He wants to do it in Mexico on I think, Mexican Independence Day. Oh, my God. It's a perfect storm for boxing fans to say F you to all MMA fans over here. They're like, yeah, boxing's so superior, even though the boxers won't meet the fighters in the octagon. So it's just another money grab, which honestly I'll still buy and watch because I'm a big fan of both fighters. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, Canelo wipes the floor with Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, I'm with Hunter. I'm calling bullshit in this. This is just madness. Yeah, Canelo himself sums it up best. Payday. You want payday. That's all this is. Don't think for a minute this is about competition, because it is not. This is about getting that boxing money and then retiring in a year or two. Not mad at it. I'm not saying I hate Kamaru Usman for it, but that's all it is. See the wood for the trees here, people. This is not going to be competitive whatsoever. Canelo is easily, well, perhaps not easily, but for me, he's my number one pound for pound fighter on planet Earth right now as well. And then pretty much after that, you can take your pick of Tyson Fury, Naoya Inoue, and Terence Crawford. Mix any of them together how you want. I don't really care, if I'm honest with you. Canelo's number one. And Canelo will, if I'm assuming in fantasy land this does actually happen, I'm going to take this a lot further than even Hunter took this. Usman has got a 0.1% chance of winning at best.
Don't say 0.1. No way.
Let me tell you this, as someone who's as much a boxing fan as I am an MMA fan, Kamaru Usman won't land a glove on Canelo all fight if he doesn't want him to. Canelo is the creme de la creme. He is the elite. It doesn't get any higher than Canelo. He is number one. And if you seriously think, if Kamaru Usman seriously thinks he's going to do to him what he did to Jorge Masvidal, then you might as well laugh straight in his face right now, because you're dealing with a totally different animal in Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo moves like nobody else, and Canelo hits like nobody else. And the thing is, as well, with Kamaru, you don't have any wrestling to save you here. This is what we were talking about a while ago about Kamaru potentially getting cocky with the fact that he's knocked a couple of people out. There is a galaxy of difference between knocking out Jorge Masvidal and fighting the best super middleweight on planet Earth. There is a world of difference between those two things. Let's just get that straight right now. And it doesn't matter if this is at a 170 catch weight, boxing's light heavyweight 175. I don't even care about the weight. Canelo beats him at any weight they fight at. There is no debate about that. But look, if Kamaru wants to get that boxing money, go ahead, make that paper. I'm not mad at that. But don't disguise it as I'm going to go on Mexican Independence Day and knock Canelo out. Stop lying, Kamaru. We all know it's bullshit. In fact, I'd respect Kamaru more if he said, I'm going there to get money and then I'm retiring. If he'd have said that, I would have no problem with it. But stop lying and falsifying that you're going to go and knock Canelo Alvarez out when Gennady Golovkin couldn't and none of the current super middleweights could. It's full of BS and it probably won't even happen. But if it does, Kamaru Usman doesn't lay a glove on Canelo.
But that's not how you sell a fight, you know? You got to say that you're going to win. You got to say that you're going to knock him out, right? But also, and this might just be me, but maybe this isn't Kamaru Usman talking here. Maybe this is Ali. Maybe this
could be Ali.
Abdulaziz, you know,
Ali loves
right now.
Loves his paper.
Through Kamaru Usman, of course. So, yeah, you guys are right. If I had to pick a percentage, right, because Keelan went with the whole 0.1%, you know, chance that he wins, and Hunter went with the 5%, I would probably put it around like I don't know, in between 1 or 2% chance that Usman would be able to win. We're not really talking. It's really not even a conversation worth having. This is one of those things where it's like you don't even really need to say it because it's just true that like it's logic, right? A couple reasons why this one is more less likely to happen. One. And also less likely for Kamaru Usman to even stand a chance to. Let's use the ultimate comparison, right? McGregor versus Mayweather, of course, right? Well, Hunter, Keelan, you both already said it. Conor is a striker, was knocking people out left and right, and that is his base, right? So you can build the fight up with that one. Two, Conor is a whole cult of personality, which is another thing, right? Usman has fans, but he has just as many, if not more, I would argue more haters against him, right? Conor has he goes to Canada and has a whole like 100,000 people there for the press conference, right? Usman doesn't have that. The other thing is too, there was a massive size advantage for Conor McGregor in that Mayweather fight. Height, reach. I know they weighed the same, but weight, Mayweather really didn't have to cut too much weight for that fight, if any. And Conor had to cut down to what it was like 150 or was it 155? I don't remember what it was.
154. I think it was junior middleweight.
Yeah. So, and this one, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Kamaru Usman has that big of a size advantage over Canelo like Conor did over Mayweather. The other thing is too, Usman's knocked out. I mean, maybe a couple people now, but Masvidal, the reason he knocks people out is because of his wrestling. And that is why, because you're hand your load to defend the wrestling. You guys, look, it's just such an absurd thing, right? That like it's crazy to even think about. But you're talking about a guy, and maybe he's not necessarily in his prime right now, but he's still, like Keelan said, the best boxer in the world, arguably, and Canelo facing the best MMA fighter, right? Kamaru Usman. Mayweather, whenever he fought Conor, another reason why that fight was like Mayweather's out of his prime at that point. He's been retired for a couple of years, and now he's fighting Conor, who's in his prime. So there's so many things about this fight that are limiting it from actually happening. I would put my money on Ngannou versus Tyson Fury happening over this fight, if I'm being honest with you. I think you can market that better too. I just think it comes down to those factors, and as well as I don't think Kamaru Usman sells as good as he thinks he does. Now that fight would sell, of course, because of Canelo. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. It's not even worth talking about for who would win that fight because everyone already knows who would win that fight. And yeah, and if we're going to do reverse Canelo and not in a million years would ever come over to MMA to do it either. So, I guess credit to Kamaru for trying, or Ali for trying. But yeah, it's interesting.
Let's also
sure.
take a look at the timeline in which this was posted.
Okay.
The day before his last two opponents, arguably his hardest opponents he's ever had, are fighting now. So I feel like it's almost just to kind of take away the attention that Masvidal and Covington are getting, and then it's just giving it to Kamaru Usman, who is the actual champ. So I see what they're doing. If it's Ali posting it, it makes sense. It's Ali posting it. And if this fight actually happens, we already know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything both of you guys said. Both made amazing points. I expected nothing less. Let's think about this for a second with Kamaru Usman, right? Nothing but the utmost of respect for him. He's an amazing martial artist, even better wrestler, even more dominant wrestler. But let's be totally honest here. His two biggest selling fights have been the Colby Covington, both those fights, and Jorge Masvidal. And the reason they sold is because of the dance partner, not because of Usman.
100%.
Jorge Masvidal can talk. Colby Covington can definitely talk. Kamaru Usman, great a fighter as he is, he doesn't have a lot of personality. No one says, oh my God, it's a Kamaru Usman press conference tonight. I got to go and watch that. We watched it because of what Covington would say and because of what Masvidal would do. Nobody watched them because of what Usman would say. We watched the fight because of how good Usman is, but nobody it's not box office the way a McGregor press conference used to be, or the way the McGregor Poirier press conference was, or the way I'm trying to think, the way a Tony Ferguson press conference is. Kamaru Usman simply isn't that good, and that's just the truth. And in an octagon, no question, but in the public domain, in terms of the press and speaking and selling a fight, he can't. And I'm not Colby Covington's biggest fan, as you know. I mean, I'm sure he's a very nice guy outside the persona, but he was right. People tuned in to hear what he would say, not what Kamaru would say. Canelo's going to have to build this fight all by himself, assuming it somehow even does happen. And Canelo will do all the legwork because Canelo brings a legion of fans with him anywhere he goes. So he'll sell that fight all by himself, and then he will knock Kamaru Usman to pieces, and it won't be close. He'll hit him to the body, tire him out, and then TKO him probably in the 6th or the 7th round. That's probably how I'd see it going. But Jack, you made a very, very good point that I'd like to build on briefly before we move on about the McGregor-Mayweather fight, because that's the only case study that we have to go on, probably the best that we would have anyway. And, whether you love him, whether you hate him, regardless of what your opinions are of him, Conor McGregor sells anywhere. Conor McGregor could go to Antarctica and the Penguins would follow him to a press conference if that was what they did. Conor McGregor could go to Kenya and they would follow him. Conor McGregor could go to Bogota in Colombia and they would follow him. You have to have a cult of personality, perfect what Jack just said, in order to build a fight like this. And Kamaru Usman just doesn't have it. Last point that I'll make is the size difference that Jack alluded to as well. Canelo fights at 168 pounds, which is super middleweight in boxing. Kamaru's the champion at 170, which is obviously welterweight in the UFC. There's not enough of a size difference to have a reasonable chance against Canelo. That's 2 pounds. And even if you catch weight that at 170 for Canelo to come up, he's gonna be as big, or maybe slightly less big, but it's not gonna be like a McGregor towering over Mayweather with that 4 or 5 inch reach advantage. Canelo's gonna be able to match him physically, so there's no way you can sell this fight in any reasonable way. Bottom line for me is I don't think this fight does happen. Even if it did happen, Usman gets embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I don't think anyone could really disagree with that. Unless you're in the Usman corner or whatever. And in that case, you're trying to sell the fight. But Hunter, I think that's a great point that you made. Look, I didn't even think about it. You're totally right. The timing of it. When is the perfect time to put this out there? Probably nothing is to it, but it's the perfect way to distract a little bit from the two guys headlining UFC 272, which let's transition to the best of the best. Oh my goodness. who cares if the fight really, I mean, it has meaning to it, but in the rankings, but whatever, it's going to be amazing. We love the two personalities. Let's go ahead and talk about one that is a fascinating question. Which fighter has more to lose in the main event, Jorge Masvidal or Colby Covington? Hunter, what do you think?
I think Jorge has more to lose here. I think this is because he's already number 6th ranked. If he loses to his greatest enemy, Colby Covington, and he already lost to his previous greatest enemy, Kamaru Usman, his pay-per-views may sell less. I mean, let's be honest. Jorge Masvidal became who he was in 2019 because of his amazing winning streak against Ben Askren, Darren Till, and Nate Diaz. All three great opponents, minus maybe Ben Askren, but the rest are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I can't take anything away from Jorge here, but all the stock he had to build up in 2019 may be diminished here in 2022 if he loses to Colby Covington here. I think he has more to lose because, let's be honest, he's really only fought, 3 times since 2019? I think he fought against Usman twice, and this will be his 3rd fight.
Yeah,
you're right.
So he's solely made all of his money on his championship title fights and his wonderful year in 2019. If he loses here, people will stop talking about him and start talking about Colby Covington, even though Colby Covington will always be in the picture, I feel like. I think Colby has rightfully proved that he is around the number 2, number 3 ranked welterweight in the world. And if he loses tonight, he'll still be talked about as the number 3 ranked welterweight in the world. If Jorge Masvidal loses tonight, he will barely even be talked about in the top 10, I feel like. So we'll see what happens, but I think Jorge has more to lose here.
Hunter, you've made some really good arguments there, but there's only one problem with them. Every argument you've just made is the reason why Colby has more to lose, not Jorge. Jorge does not have as much to lose here as Colby Covington does, and I'm going to tell you why. Colby Covington's claim to fame at welterweight, aside from being a very good welterweight, non-biased aside, is that he's only ever lost to the welterweight champion. If he loses to Street Judas and Journeyman Jorge, as he's called him, then Colby's on seriously shaky ground at welterweight, and all credibility is taken from him if he loses to Jorge Masvidal. You know, you can't. If Jorge loses here, he can't recover, or sorry, if Colby loses, he can't recover from this because he's pointed out the fact that Jorge's 15 losses on his record, the fact that he's a journeyman, the fact that he has a BMF belt, all that kind of stuff. So if you lose to that, what defense do you have? Because you should be the one that's going out and smoking the person you've claimed as nothing. If Colby Covington goes out and he loses to Jorge Masvidal, his momentum is gone. And Jorge's is right back where it was in 2019. This fight is all about momentum and who gets the charge to stay at the top of the welterweight division. Like you said, Jorge Masvidal is number 6. Not great, not terrible. That means he doesn't have that much to lose if he does lose. The other reason why it means that is that people, I think, are still always going to talk about Jorge Masvidal. As long as he puts on a good show, people will always talk about him. Everybody knows Colby's a wrestler. Everybody knows he has to out-wrestle him. So if Colby out-wrestles him, where's the controversy? Everybody will look back at that fight and say, yeah, Colby out-wrestled him. We expected it. We move on. It was nothing different. But if Jorge Masvidal goes out and he flattens Colby Covington, then Colby's momentum and his credibility are ripped away from him. And they're ripped away from him in an instant. Jorge is back in the upper echelons of welterweight, and Colby suddenly finds himself in a much less secure position than he was before the fight. Last point that I'm going to make about why Colby has more to lose here as well, and it's more around the persona of what Colby Covington brings, you know, the MAGA hat, all that kind of stuff. Look, we don't talk about politics here. That's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to believe what they want to believe. I have no problem with that. But Colby's rhetoric is starting to age, and it's starting to get old chronologically. You know, the whole Trump stuff was great back in 2019, 2020. Brazil, you're a dump, all that kind of stuff. But from what I can see and what evidence I have, which I admit is not much, but what I do have is that Colby's persona is starting to get old and it's starting to get stale. And the last real ride that Colby has in that rhetoric is against Jorge Masvidal. You know, this whole King of Miami stuff and all the various different things that Colby Covington has said. This is really his last stand to use all that rhetoric. And after this fight, it's sort of yesterday's news, get something new pretty much. Jorge Masvidal has proven he can reinvent himself pretty originally. Can Colby Covington do the same? I don't think he can. All he's done is leech onto something that was controversial at the time, Donald Trump's presidency, one way or the other, and build a character out of that. Jorge Masvidal reinvented his career Street Jesus with that run in 2019. If Colby Covington loses, he's got to do that all over again, and he's going to find that very, very hard to do.
Very interesting. I like the points. Okay, so this is where I stand on this one. Although Keelan, you make some great points about why it is detrimental to Colby as far as, momentum going away. He's still going to be in most likely the top 3 of that division, and he's going to be able to have the chance to make another title run. When you look at Jorge Masvidal, he's a guy who, look, Colby talks a lot of trash and everything. And that's how he sells his fight, right? So if he loses, it's like, okay, well, he talked a lot of trash anyways. But Masvidal has been talking a lot of trash recently, and he got slept in his last fight by a wrestler in Kamaru Usman. This is a guy who, like, if you look at it, really, he got the title shot off of the Nate Diaz fight, and then before that, Ben Askren. And what was the fight before that? Darren Till, right? Which Darren Till at the time was a legitimate win. Yeah. Ben Askren, of course, is a legitimate win, but at the same time, it's Ben Askren. Yeah. Exactly. And then Nate Diaz fights like once every 4 years, and
it was a doctor stoppage.
And it was a doctor stoppage, which the momentum was changing. Yeah. The momentum was changing in that fight. Is another thing. Diaz was starting to come back whenever the fight got stopped. So you look at him and you look at this welterweight division, how stacked it is, and then you look, well, he had a lot of phenomenal performances, but was it really the phenomenal performances, or was it the flying knee that got Jorge Masvidal to the title shot? And is he really not supposed to be up here? If he loses to Colby Covington, especially in dominant fashion, to be honest with you guys, I think if this fight is relatively close and one fighter loses and one fighter wins, I really think both can recover. However, if one fighter gets dominated, and this is what we're talking about, if Jorge Masvidal gets dominated by Colby Covington, gets tired out and mauled and finished, I think that's the end of Jorge Masvidal. We're done talking about him for his title shot. And then, like Hunter said, whenever a fighter's out of the title picture, that's when their pay-per-view sales go down. Why is Jorge Masvidal still up there? It's because he's such a draw. It's because people pay to see him, which is why this fight, because people do the same for Colby Covington. They pay to see these guys, but especially Jorge Masvidal. He's one of the main, usually in all of his fights, he is the main selling point to watch that fight. If he loses to Colby Covington here, that selling point is most likely gone, because you can't keep giving him these guys, especially when he's ranked 6. He's going to have to fight some lower card guys. Hell, he was already scheduled to fight Leon Edwards, which was the 3rd fight down on a card. So this really is a make or break moment for Jorge Masvidal. If it's Colby Covington and he loses, well, look, he's got a lot of fight left in him. He can use it. Another thing is with Colby Covington, he has the style to keep winning fights, right? So he might, if he loses, right, he has the wrestling and the cardio and stuff, which could beat most of the 170 pounders in the UFC. Masvidal's style is a very tough style to win with, because it is just so explosive and stuff like that, right? Which goes into this fight directly, of course. But when you talk about who has more longevity in them, it's 100% Colby Covington at this point in time. Also, of course, because Masvidal has been fighting longer. So, long story short, Hunter, I agree with you. I think Masvidal has a lot more to lose in this fight if they get dominated than Colby Covington. Just as far as like ego and everything goes, because anytime he tries to sell another fight or get himself another top level fight, he's just not going to be able to do it, because he has nothing to stand on, because people can just pick it apart really quick. And also it tears away the credibility of his previous 2 title runs beforehand. So that's why I think Jorge Masvidal.
I'd also like to talk about his opponents real quick.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 2019. I'm going to skip Darren Till right now, because that's as soon as he made his like journeyman, like type of situation back into the picture, right? Yeah. Gets the knockout, going against Ben Askren. big. Ben Askren's a huge talker, lots of trash talk,
Yep.
and you could tell Jorge hates this guy. People are like, oh, there's genuinely bad blood here. I'm going to tune in and watch the fight. Masvidal gets a 6-second fastest knockout in UFC history. Everyone's like, wow, this is awesome. Then his next fight, East Coast versus West Coast Gangsters. It sells itself. Great pay-per-view sell right there. Then his next two fights after that, beautiful poster right there, Jack. His next two fights after that are against the champion, right? That sells itself as well. His next fight after that, against his most bitter rival, Colby Covington. Boom. If he loses that fight, what is actually left in cases of selling pay-per-view for Jorge Masvidal? The rest of the division, they don't really have any problem with Masvidal. Masvidal doesn't really have any problem with them. If Colby loses, he still has Dustin Poirier waiting in the wing wanting to fight him.
True.
Jorge Masvidal doesn't necessarily have anyone left if he loses to sell pay-per-views. If he wins, sure, he's got Leon Edwards for backstage brawling. And then after that, I don't know what's left for Jorge Masvidal. So honestly, I think the time for Jorge Masvidal is coming to an end within the next few years here. But if he loses right now, that could expedite the process very fastly.
You see, I still disagree with us. I really, really do. And look, I'm kind of like the public defender here. I kind of have to defend Jorge because everybody's on Colby's side. You know, we do balance here in the MMA Island podcast. You know, that's what we do out here. Look, very hard to argue with what you guys have said. And in any other common sense scenario, I would actually agree with you. I think the case is a lot stronger on the surface for Colby. First of all, with Jorge, let's label this chapter the Street Jesus run 2019 up until the title fights with Usman. Darren Till, legitimate win. Ben Askren, one of the most exciting knockouts ever in the UFC. This Nate Diaz thing bugs me a little bit because nobody can knock out Nate Diaz. And Jorge Masvidal did some of the worst damage Nate Diaz has ever taken. That's why that fight sold, and that's why it was exciting. Yes, the tide was turning. I accept that. Jorge was starting to run out of gas. Happened to Conor McGregor. Happened to everybody else. Happened to, well, not necessarily to Leon Edwards, but he did get that one shot that changed the course of the narrative after entirely. So the point is that Jorge Masvidal took on a guy who nobody can finish and still pasted him up really, really badly. The second point that I want to make about longevity and basically who this affects worse, longevity speaking, after this fight, assuming, and smart money will tell you that the correct assumption is that Jorge Masvidal goes out and gets dominated with Colby's wrestling. I don't think there's a shock there to anybody. Jorge Masvidal is always going to have longevity because of his style, not in spite of it. And I'm going to tell you why. Jack, you said there that Jorge Masvidal's style is tough to win with, and it is, no arguments there, but it will have longevity because it's exciting. And with Jorge Masvidal is only ever one or two highlight reel finishes away from being right back in this position, even if he does lose. People like Jorge Masvidal. People relate to Jorge Masvidal, and people will always be behind Jorge Masvidal. All he ever needs is one or two big, massive knockouts like the Darren Till knockout to be right back in this position again and to make another run. Now, age is not on his side and career prospects aren't on his side. I understand that. But think of the modern mixed martial arts news cycle, you know, with social media, with TikTok, Twitter, all that other kind of stuff. What sells and what gets views? Does wrestling get it? No, it doesn't. When was the last time you saw a wrestling video with 30, 40 million hits and 1 million or 2 million likes? Moving on.
You can add Makachev to that list too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, let's put Makachev there too. Yeah, I like that.
It's the Russian.
We're ganging up on Keelan this episode.
Sorry, I'm sorry. But you should have said outside of Russia. What?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Ireland gets invaded again. No, my point is this. Jorge Masvidal has that viral nature to him because of his style. He will always be relevant and he will always sell and he will always be popular. Doesn't matter if it's a fight night, a pay-per-view, a grudge match, or a title fight. Jorge Masvidal will always sell. Colby Covington won't. Colby Covington's persona and Colby Covington's style will wear thin very quickly, because at the end of the day, this kind of sounds very barbarian and basic, but we pay to watch people get knocked out. We pay for the Ben Askren flying knees. We don't pay for the RDA domination performances. It's just not in us as fans. So even if you take it at its most base level, Jorge Masvidal can get dominated, and in all likelihood he will. But Jorge Masvidal will always have more popularity and longevity than Colby Covington. Take the personas and take the masks off of this and examine the substance. Jorge Masvidal has way less to lose than Colby Covington.
That's very interesting, and I'm still sticking with mine and everything. I like what you said, though. The only thing that I would disagree with is, so the style is absolutely true, right? Because Colby on his own, it didn't work, right? He was winning and he was about to get cut until he did the thing.
Exactly.
Right? It didn't work. However, the one thing I do disagree with is I think he can keep up the persona for as long as he wants. Because originally it was the Trump and everything, and he still kind of relies on that a little bit. But what he does to substitute for it now, he is the bad guy of the UFC. He takes that, right? And I don't mean like Chael Sonnen bad guy. I mean like, I'm going to talk about your wife and your kids and like all of the taboo topics and make you angry. And that gets views, that gets clicks whenever he's making fun of the people that are interviewing him and he's just like trashing everyone. That hypes fights up. So I think Colby Covington can keep that up for as long as he wants, because that's who he is, and it'll sell fights. There's a reason they could not. Here's the other point, right? That I'm going to tie into as well for Masvidal real quick. I think Connor's in this exact same spot right now, which is fascinating. Masvidal is a guy who's about to, if he loses, enter a limbo state in the UFC. And what I mean by that is he is such a pay-per-view draw or such a well-known name that you can't give him some of the lower guys that he should take to rebuild his career, because that won't sell fights. And that's a waste of a guy like Masvidal at this point in his career. So who would he be fighting? Guys that most likely he would lose to, but they would still put him up there. And also guys that aren't too good to where you could headline a pay-per-view, because you couldn't headline a pay-per-view between Leon Edwards and Jorge Masvidal. They literally already, we already saw that. They put that the third fight down on a card. And you're thinking they couldn't headline a Vicente Luque Jorge Masvidal fight. They couldn't headline a I don't even know. Chiesa
Tom Brady Jorge Masvidal.
John Brady Masvidal fight. There's no way they could headline any of those.
Usman maybe. Kamzat, I could see that.
They could, but not yet, I don't think. I don't think they could do that yet.
Unless Kamzat loses.
And also, the way their careers are going, Hamzat's just going to jump right over that. I don't even think he would take. But
he's already facing number 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think this fight. I think if Masvidal loses this fight, he enters a weird limbo state to where he might not be able to win another fight in his career, and he also might not be able to headline another fight in his career unless it's Diaz again. But that fight doesn't even really make that much sense to do. So that's why I think it just Colby Covington. Both guys have a lot to lose here, no doubt about it. But if it comes down to it, I would pick Masvidal for having more to lose, because I just think his career is going to enter such a weird state, kind of like Connor's is right now, because I know Dana White's like, oh, he might get the title shot, but we should riot if that happens.
Yeah.
Who is he going to fight? He can't fight some of the lower guys down because there's no one for him there. And do we think he's going to beat any of the guys that I would put Michael Chandler, I would favor against Connor. Makhachev, I would for sure favor against Connor.
Oh, yeah.
Most of those guys you would favor against Connor. So anyways, that's what I think. I have Masvidal. Colby Covington, of course, has a lot to lose as well. Great topic. It's time for the picks. The pick of the night now. UFC 272. Let's go. Hunter, what is your prediction for the main event and your pick of the night? Take it away.
I'll start with my pick of the night.
Yep.
I'm going to give it to Kevin Holland here against Alex Oliveira, or the Cowboy at welterweight. That's not Cowboy, But he's a minus 325 currently. He's a somewhat of a heavy favorite. Alex has some great wrestling, and he has great Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So don't get me wrong. It could be this is kind of a litmus test for Kevin Holland here to see if he can hold his own against the wrestling, because that's always been his kind of key downfall in the past, was wrestling. So he's starting to train it a lot. We've heard he's training with some really good training partners. I think Kevin Holland is now at least improved his game enough to where he can start handling his own against the wrestlers. And I believe Kevin Holland will win on Saturday night. Probably, I'm going to go with unanimous decision here. It's a 3-round fight. I think Alex is going to try to take him down a lot of it. I think Kevin Holland will get taken down maybe once or twice and then defend the rest of them. Then Kevin Holland will piece him up on the feet, and it will go to unanimous decision. So that's my pick of the night. But when it comes to the main event, which I know you guys have all been waiting for here, I have big shocker because I've hyped him up a little bit more. Jorge Masvidal winning this fight come Saturday night. My main reasoning here is because since 2019, I feel like he has trained against wrestlers. Basically, he's trained to fight wrestlers at American Top Team, one of the best gyms in the world, one of the best wrestling gyms in the world. He trained to fight Ben Askren. Obviously, he didn't have to use the wrestling there, but I'm sure that was in the back of his pocket. He trained to fight Kamaru Usman twice, debatably one of the best wrestlers in the division. And now he's training to fight his former training partner, Colby Covington, who he's actually wrestled in the past. So when it comes down to all that, I think Masvidal, sure, he'll get taken down once, twice, hell, maybe even 3 times. But I don't think he'll be able to stay down. We saw this in the second Kamaru Usman fight. Usman did take him down at one point. Masvidal, almost with ease, got up within a minute, I'd say. I think that's good time for a wrestler, especially as big of a strong wrestler as Kamaru Usman. Colby Covington has the technique, but he doesn't exactly have the strength. And I think technique can be trained, but strength cannot. So when it comes down to it, I think Masvidal could, I don't want to say easily, but I think he can get up against Colby Covington, piece him up on the feet, go for that body work, and eventually narrow out a great unanimous decision in a fantastic fight of the night. And you know why I picked that, guys?
Oh, fuck.
Does anyone have a clue? It's because
know.
what the boss says goes.
I knew that was coming.
We'll see.
I knew that
How
was
could you
coming.
not?
We'll see. We'll see, Hunter. We'll see.
Hunter, you've just spent 20 minutes trashing Jorge Masvidal. Now you're picking?
No, I spent 20 minutes telling you why Jorge Masvidal has more to lose. Doesn't mean I think he's going to lose.
Fair enough. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Not saying I disagree with it, but I see what you're doing.
Winning.
Fair, Tom. Right, so first of all, pick of the night. In terms of my betting odds, who do I think you should bet on? And I'm actually going to go for the exact opposite of what Hunter just said. I'm going to go for the cowboy that isn't the actual cowboy, and that's Alex Oliveira against Kevin Holland.
That's usually what I do. What's happening?
You didn't see that coming, did you? No, I'm going to tell you why I think Alex Oliveira is the one to bet on here. I'm looking at the live odds right now, and Alex Oliveira is plus 325. Obviously, Kevin Holland's a big favorite. Who did Kevin Holland fight last? Kyle Dawkins. And Kevin Holland has supposedly been working on his jiu-jitsu, and he got dominated in his last fight by Kyle Dawkins up until the no contest. Alex Oliveira is a very rugged, wily, experienced vet with some very, very good jiu-jitsu and some very tough wrestling. I think this could be another rough night at the office for Kevin Holland. And the other thing as well for Oliveira.
Wait, did you say that he got dominated by Kyle Dawkins?
Yes.
I believe it was a draw, round 1.
Yeah, it was a no contest because of a headbutt.
But
it only lasted a round, though.
Yes, but up until
no way you can get dominated in 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you, Keelan. I'm trying to piece it together in my head here,
guys. These are the dirty mind tricks I'm being.
I'm just a mean guy. I'm a bad guy. You know,
and why is that, Keelan? It's because what the boss says go.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I agree with that 100%.
I thought the last podcast proved we weren't math guys, Hunter. We can't just change the narrative.
Hunter's redeemed.
I got this cool nifty machine called Google that helps me out now. It helps me when I can't do the math.
Yeah, this for sure.
Anyway, as I was saying,
sorry.
Yes, in the Kevin Holland's last fight against Mr. Kyle Dawkins, up until the end of that fight, the no contest, which included a video replay, Kyle Dawkins was dominating Kevin Holland up until the headbutt. And I think Alex Oliveira can do the same here. Now, admittedly, a lot of, if I'm not wrong, because I do believe in being unbiased, I think it was the headbutt that did lead to the knockdown that led to the submission for Kyle Dawkins. But Kevin Holland was still very uncomfortable in that fight. He was backed up. He doesn't seem to deal well with that wrestling pressure from people who can put it on him. And I think with someone like Alex Oliveira, who loves violence and who loves wrestling and who loves jiu-jitsu, that seems like a nightmarish day at the office for Kevin Holland for me. A little bit left field, I understand that. But if you want to make money, you got to take risks. That's my motto. And for me, Alex Oliveira is the risk that could be worth betting on for you. Now, on to my actual prediction of the night in the main event. And quite shockingly, and even though at this point now I dislike having to do it, I do actually agree with Hunter.
Oh
and I
my
am going to
God.
say,
Jesus Christ. Everyone, stop watching the video. Something's wrong.
Yeah. This is the one night Colby Covington's going to win as well. And I hate myself for it. No, look, even though Hunter's playing his Jedi mind tricks on me, interrupting my arguments and my flow, I can't argue with his end prediction because it is true.
I'm shocked.
Love him or hate him, ever since really 2000 and early 2020, Jorge Masvidal has been training to fight elite wrestlers. So his fallback is going to be very good takedown defense and a very good scrambling game as well. And I think if you neutralize that wrestling game and you consider stand-up versus stand-up, Jorge Masvidal's stand-up far exceeds Colby Covington's, and his power far exceeds Colby Covington's too. All it takes is for Colby to get cracked on the jaw 1 or 2 good times, and Colby can be in trouble because Jorge Masvidal's southpaw Cuban boxing is very, very good, and it is extremely vicious, not to mention the elbows and the clinch and all those other little nasty weapons Jorge can pull out of his pocket as well. So look, common money says Colby Covington wrestling dominates this fight, uses the wrestling to get a 5-round decision or a late stoppage, and I'm not going to argue against that. However, Jorge Masvidal is a far better veteran and a very, very wily, experienced veteran too. He knows what's coming and he's going to do his best to prepare for that. For me, you want to take a risk and you want a bold prediction to get somewhere, it's Jorge Masvidal.
I'm blown away by that. Okay, so I guess you guys have put me in a weird spot here because I wasn't going to talk about the stupid Kevin Holland versus Alex Oliveira fight, but since you both talked about it, I'm going to talk about that real quick, and then I'm going to have to make my other pick of the night because that's not my pick of the night. I'm sticking with it. Anyways, I have the benefit of being an Alex Oliveira fan. I tend to watch all of his fights because he fights on the prelims a lot. What I don't think you guys understand is that Alex Oliveira does not really think whenever he fights. He fights like a wild person. He has the nickname Cowboy. That is because he is literally a cowboy, just like Donald Cerrone, but from Brazil. He grew up on a ranch. He has a ranch right now. The dude is insane. He goes out there and throws with no technique, but has a ton of power and just walks forward.
So does Kevin Holland.
So does Kevin
He's
Holland.
got technique, though.
But Kevin Holland in this fight, which is why Kevin Holland would win, is because Kevin Holland's like 6'3", and he's going to be fighting at 170 and have the massive reach advantage. And also, Alex Oliveira never throws straight punches. He always wildly throws in. Kevin Holland is 1-2 right down, and that's basically what he mainly throws. It's just the 1-2. What's going to happen, and my prediction is a Kevin Holland knockout round 1, is because Alex Oliveira is going to walk forward. Maybe he'll catch Kevin Holland a little bit, rock him, but it just takes one straight punch from Kevin Holland. Down goes Alex Oliveira. I love the guy, and that's why he's exciting, and that's why I watch all of his fights, but that's also what's going to be his detriment here. Lower weight class for Kevin Holland. I believe he made the weight today. He's going to go out there, rejuvenate his career, because even though, like you guys said, Alex Oliveira does have the skill to take it to the ground, I don't think he will. I think he's going to want to go out there and fight the striker in a striking fight, and we'll see what happens. That's not even my pick of the night. I don't know. I had to talk about it because you guys talked about it. Anyways, so my pick of the night, right? I'm going to go Bryce Mitchell by a decision.
Oh my God. I would say so far away from that fight for your pick of the night. Holy shit. I want that to happen. I don't know if it will.
Hunter, have you seen these camo shorts that Venom have made?
That's true.
For,
That is
for
true.
Bryce
I
Mitchell?
have to
Those
keep that in
things
mind.
are amazing. You gotta go. Look, Edson Barbosa obviously has a massive advantage on the feet. And an advantage that I don't think we'll see on the rest of the card is how much advantage he has on the feet. And then on the ground, I would give a massive advantage to Bryce Mitchell, not surprisingly. However, I think Edson Barbosa is so good at, because he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. He will be able to defend the strikes, but I think Bryce Mitchell will be doing nonstop pressure, tiring down Edson Barbosa, get him to the ground, kind of like a Charles Oliveira against Tony Ferguson sort of performance is how I see this going. I see Edson Barbosa surviving the attacks. However, I see Bryce Mitchell getting the decision in the Venom camo shorts. That's my prediction. That's what I think. We got to go a little bit different than Hunter. Whew, this is a lot. I guess now it's time for the main event prediction, right? We should do that. We should do
No
that
pressure.
now. Oh my gosh. So I don't know where to start with this. I for some reason, because all logic points and what I've been thinking in my head points to Colby Covington getting the finish, like a takedown and just kind of maybe tiring out Jorge Masvidal and finishing him round 3 or 4. I don't know what is going on with me because I'm getting a weird feeling, especially these last couple days. And I'm at this neutral point where I don't know what to do. And today at the weigh-ins and from the previous press conference, I see Colby Covington really, I think, starting to get to Masvidal, especially at the weigh-ins. You see their demeanor. Covington looks calm, relaxed, happy. Masvidal looks very focused and like he's riding a lot of pressure, right? I don't know why I'm doing this, but I agree with you guys. I'm going to Jorge Masvidal. I have no logical reason to pick him. I just have this weird feeling. I have this weird feeling that he's going to get it done. I don't think this fight's going to go to a decision because I think Masvidal is going to win. I think this fight goes to a decision. Colby wins in 10 times out of 10 because Colby's going to have the more strikes thrown per round. He's going to have the more takedowns and octagon control. But there's something about Jorge Masvidal in this fight, just the way he's walking around, the way he's carrying himself. I think the emotion is going to help him because when's the last time he's been this emotional? It's got to be the Askren fight. And there's going to be something. I think he's going to be, I really think he's not going to be doing too good in this fight. And then something's going to happen. And it's going to hit him. He's going to catch a second win and then go out there and just crack Colby and finish him in the 3rd round. That is my prediction. I think Colby's going to do phenomenal in this fight. Something happens. Masvidal gets a second win. And it's just like, I hate this guy. I'm going to go finish him, cracks him with something, and I think Masvidal gets it done. I literally told someone earlier today that asked me my predictions. I said Colby Covington's going to get it done. I'm flip-flopping. But at this moment, this is my official lock prediction. I have this weird feeling in my gut that Masvidal gets it done. My head saying don't pick against Colby Covington because clearly he is the 2nd best welterweight on planet Earth. But no. Masvidal wins by knockout. My prediction. I agree.
I like it. Honestly, I like it. That's what I'm feeling too. I'm trying to bring logic in to try to expand my feelings, so at least I have some reason why I can actually believe in myself. But when it comes down to it, it really is a gut feeling that Masvidal might win this. Like he's got the power. We've seen crazier things happen in MMA.
Yeah,
it could be crazy, and also. Just to slander Keelan a little bit more for the Alex Oliveira thing, he is on a 3-fight losing streak currently. I forgot to mention that in my opening argument. In my closing argument, he is.
Your ignorance is forgiven.
Okay, that's all I got. That's all I got, though.
Oh my gosh, Hunter's breaking out the numbers this podcast. I'm like the last one. I love it. I love it. The math is redeemed.
Covington by decision. No, look, I love a good underdog story. You know that. That's why I haven't won a single prediction since we've been doing this. Oh boy, this is tough to predict. It really, really is. Look, this all signposts point to Colby Covington going out and absolutely ragdolling Jorge Masvidal. There really is no argument about it. He's a much better wrestler. He's in Masvidal's head. I do think that's a fair point. And yeah, all that sort of stuff. He's only ever lost to Kamaru Usman. And yeah, he's just a very, very accomplished fighter. And he probably will win. And yet something is telling me I don't know what it is, because it's not like Jack who can justify a crazy pick. All I do is make crazy picks and none of them ever work. But something is telling me that Jorge Masvidal has got his head in the right place. He's got that venom trickling into his veins where he wants to go out. He's got a target locked and he wants to kill. And the last time I saw that from Jorge Masvidal was really the Ben Askren fight. Jorge Masvidal hasn't been shouty, screamy aggression the way Colby Covington is. He's actually been a little bit more quiet aggression against Colby, letting him talk, counter talking, all that kind of stuff. And I actually really like where Jack's coming from, because I can kind of see that happening as well. I don't think there's going to be another flying knee, because it's just not going to happen. But I actually see it finishing very slightly differently. I see Colby dominating the first 2 rounds. I see a point where Covington nearly finishes the fight, but Masvidal gets back to his feet, gets back to his corner. And there's something about the number 3. There's something about that 3rd round. I don't know what it is. Something tells me that they're in the clinch. They break the clinch, and Masvidal unleashes the most hellacious body shot that you've ever seen. I think he throws that southpaw left straight into the kidneys, and Covington's body crumples on him. For some reason, that's how I see it happening. I see him stepping back. I see him launching a sledgehammer straight into that body, and I see Covington dropping, and I see Masvidal finishing him against the octagon. And for some reason, that's just how I see it happening. Sensible money says Colby Covington's going to go out and ragdoll him. It just is the way it is. And yet Jorge Masvidal has defied expectations before. In that second fight against Kamaru Usman, he was doing so well, and he was lighting Kamaru up in places as well. It has to be said, for the sake of balance. And I see that happening. I really do. So my lock prediction, even though we're going to come to Monday, and even though I'm going to be laughed at again for being on the wrong side, because I probably will be.
We would all be on the wrong side, though.
Yeah. Hold on. There's no wrong side. We're right, Keelan.
We're all on the right side.
Believe in yourself.
Fair enough. And the reason that I say that is because it's the return of the Mac, and the Mac is back.
All right. We'll see. Yeah,
that's my answer to what the boss says goes.
I love it. I love it. The Mystic McNamara there. I love it. So I don't know. It's weird, right? You got the Masvidal pick. We're all going there. Didn't see that one. I love how we just ended up talking and arguing over Alex Oliveira versus Kevin Holland in this episode as well. That's phenomenal.
Where else would you get that?
You wouldn't get that. And I'll tell you what, I don't think any 3 MMA fans in the room would agree with Masvidal winning this fight. So something weird's happening. I also agree with you about the 3rd round. I don't know what's going on right now. We got some weird feelings going on. Maybe they'll change tomorrow when we do the Instagram live.
Something about the second wind. I think that's what did it for me. I don't know why, but there's something about I think it's maybe because I've seen McGregor get it before, a couple of times, and you've seen the likes of Dustin Poirier get it too. The second wind is a very real thing. A lot of people think it's BS, which I suppose I understand, but it is a real thing, and it does happen. And Masvidal should be drained by the end of the second round, and yet I see him getting it back. It's a weird energy. I don't know what it is, but there's something about that 3rd round.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I picked 3rd round for Masvidal.
I kind of see, sorry, interrupting, DC Stipe 2. Like when they started adjusting, I think Masvidal could adjust mid fight as well, and that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it.
I like that.
Yeah, well, we're all going down together, or we're all going up together on the MMA Island podcast. What an episode, guys! UFC 272. It's going to be amazing. We're all hyped up for it. Thank you, everyone, as always, for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to us everywhere. Literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Check out our Instagram at MMA.island and our website, MMAisland.net. Again, everyone, thank you for listening, and great podcast, guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you all tomorrow.